artist, mouth painter, and creative entity extraordinaire.
Woo. I'm Reveca Torres, and I am a visual artist, and I am also a disability advocate.
I am Tara Ahern, and I am a photographer and disability advocate.
The Tres Fridas Project is a collaboration between Tara Ahern, Mariam, Paré, and myself, and we recreated iconic images of art and history and replaced the subjects with people with disabilities with the intention to be able to share a little bit about what the disability experience is and unveil some of the issues that our community has.
This project has been a passion project for all three of us, Reveca, Mariam, and myself, where we've been able to celebrate, our own artistic endeavors and our own advocacy work, and really celebrate other artists in the Chicagoland area who are also disabled. That's been really exciting for us. Yeah, so the project started with our first recreation, which was Las Dos Fridas. And it started, initially when Reveca and Mariam met each other online. They found commonality through some Facebook groups and chat rooms online.
The thing that was important about Reveca and I meeting is that, there aren't a lot of other, it was a time when I was searching for other women with disabilities to relate to, other artists. So it was kind of a big deal that I had met somebody like Reveca Torres at the time, because our community can be small and isolated, and without the internet and stuff like that, it's the only catalyst that we have for communication and change. So Reveca and I were very invigorated when we met each other, and we wanted to make art together right away, and using ourselves as a model for the first recreation was very empowering. And when we saw ourselves as those two women in Las Dos Fridas and the painting, we felt like it was powerful. The imagery we created was powerful. The subtlety that our wheelchairs were seen, were subtly seen in the image. It was almost like we were inserting artifacts of disability culture into mainstream imagery. We thought that was really neat, and we said, wow, we could do this with other disabled people. We should make more of these photos and use some of our friends or other people in the community that we knew that had other disabilities to then, as a segue, to then be able to talk about the issues surrounding disability.
At one point, I think all looked at each other and said, there's something really magical here. And so after that, we had many conversations about how we could, create other works of art and feature other individuals with disabilities and explore other topics that affect the disability community.
That's why we chose to take images that were part of the collective consciousness of everyone, like images that people would find familiar. I think it was the way it was received, it was easier for people to receive information about disability because it was almost something vaguely familiar already. Like everybody was familiar with the Mona Lisa, say the image of the Mona Lisa, and by using a model with a disability and recreating the Mona Lisa, the reaction we got by imagining what if Mona Lisa was in a wheelchair, I think it was an easy way to introduce those topics and issues and start dialogue because they were images from mainstream history.
Part of the fascinating thing about this project is that we really, part of our goal was also just to normalize disability, because that as much as we want people to see and understand the things that are unique to our community, we are just living our lives. Things like relationships. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about disability and about what disabled people can and can't do. And I think part of our project was to really kind of blow the lid off that and to say, yeah, like these are all parts of the human experience that we all, you know, strive for and have rights to. And so I think part of it was really celebrating that experience as well.
Recently, I went back and was looking at some of the emails between Mariam and I when we first met. We met online, and we communicated through email and Skype. And I think one of the things that brought us together was like there was this exhibition in the Casa Azul in Mexico of Frida Kahlo's wardrobe, and it was, you know, recognized everywhere. There was like, you know, a lot of stories about it and how amazing this exhibit was. And I think that's what kind of, we both were like, we need to go see that. And that was what started the whole thing, where we then started talking about our relationship with Frida and, you know, how she has inspired some of our work. And I think how we have been able to relate to her as a woman and an artist with a disability, and that sort of sparked everything. So my first image that I saw of Frida was probably when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, and an art teacher came and she would come in every week and bring images of different artists, and one day she brought this one image of a portrait of a woman with a mustache and big eyebrows. That's all I remember as a kid. And I don't know why it stuck with me, because other pieces of work hadn't. And I started looking her up, checking out books in the library, and which I think was maybe a little bit strange as a child, because I remember my dad asking me what I was looking at and being shocked as I was looking at these books. And but yeah, I think that was my first time I had seen some of her work, and I sort of forgot about her until later, after I had been injured. I was injured at the age of 13, and in high school I was able to I had to find an artist and do a project on an artist and a leader, and I remembered her, but I couldn't remember her name, and found her again. And I was just so shocked to learn that she was also a woman with a disability, and her story, and how much that resonated with my experience as a person with a disability.
She really is an inspiration and a pioneer. I mean, I had to spend time in bed because of illness, and recently and in years past, and it was because of Frida Kahlo that I realized, like, hey, maybe I could still paint, you know, while I'm in bed, or maybe, you know, even when you're in pain and you still need art. And, you know, Frida went through those things as well. And I'm even getting like choked up thinking about it right now, but it's those deep things that keep Frida as the icon that she is.
I think a lot of artists and women, particularly women around the world, relate to Frida Kahlo because she is, you know, very visibly raw and puts her whole self out for the world to see in a way that I imagine was quite painful for her, or for anyone who's, you know, sharing portraits of themselves with the world. We, you know, at one point we had a master list of, you know, dozens and dozens of inspiring artwork that each of us felt really connected to. And I think at a certain point we really had to, like Reveca said earlier, buckle down and really kind of figure out what pieces we really wanted to recreate. And there was definitely some balance. We wanted each of us to have a few that we could produce ourselves, whether it was, you know, we would be in them, or we would work to find models and you know, whatever topic it was that connected to us personally. So we kind of broke it down like that, where, you know, Reveca really wanted to explore dance, and so she produced the dance lesson, and things like that.
When we wanted to speak on employment and labor issues for people with disabilities, we chose who could be more powerful than Rosie the Riveter, you know. So we were very thoughtful about how to reflect these issues or manifest them using the image. Another example would be, we did a recreation of the Last Supper, and we used that as an opportunity to reflect the diversity of disabilities and people with multiple disabilities or invisible disabilities. We had such a range. It gave us the opportunity to, that image in particular gave us that opportunity to talk about that. Another example is The Old Guitarist by Picasso. We use that as an opportunity to speak on inspiration porn and how people with disabilities are perceived in the media and such things like that. So once we got a collection, a well-rounded collection, that was how we started. And we then chose people from other disabled people also to fit with those themes. And we were very fortunate to get some very great candidates, like the beautiful Genevieve Nutley, a beautiful woman with a disability, to play Venus, the Birth of Venus.
The models, I feel like a lot of them were just like a really perfect fit. You know, we found, you know, Genevieve for Birth of Venus. Tommy Carroll, who's a musician, did The Old Guitarist, and who is also blind. And so, yeah, there was this, it was really nice when we had, you know, a perfect fit for some different models. And then we also interviewed them, and that was really interesting because it sort of informed us on, like, what did they want to say about this work too. They weren't just sitting and being a model. Like, we wanted to hear from them and how they felt, how they reacted to the image, and, you know, what they had to say. And that really did help inform us on what we wrote in the text cards that accompany each of the work.
We hope to make change, like bigger change, and the issues that we spoke on in this project were to hopefully bring awareness on issues about relationships for people with disabilities, interabled relationships, things like employment, poverty, ideals of beauty. We touched on so many topics with each of the images that is really what the information we had to share, and also the experience of real people with disabilities, sharing those examples of the people within the photos were our biggest goal. And I think we accomplished that with those 16 images.
It's a exhibition that is for, you know, the general population, whether you have a disability or not, and in particular for, you know, other disabled persons that come and view and see this work. I've noticed how, like, there's this joy on people's faces when they are, you know, seeing themselves represented in the work and seeing that this work was done by people with disabilities. And that was one of our goals initially, that these stories and these topics were addressed by us and told by us, and the stories by us, and not about us from someone else's perspective. And I think that has been something that has translated over and hopefully empowered other artists with disabilities to be able to, you know, to share their own work as well.